Hey everyone, thanks for dialing in. Hopefully you're here for the right reasons. I'm going to talk you through the UK tax system and what you should know about UK tax. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record it as well. So for everyone who's logged their details, I'm going to send you out the recording and also the slides as well. So at least you've got something to refer back to. So don't worry about writing too many notes. I'll send everything you need following the call. So if you've got any questions as well, feel free to put up your hand and ask those questions, or you can ask at the end. It's totally up to you, or you can just send me a message afterwards. I'm probably going to log off after this call, but I'll be around tomorrow. So let's get started then. Okay, so just a bit of background on me. My name's Louise Haitley and I'm a tax advisor by trade. So I've been working in the industry now for over 10 years. I started my career in London, working for some big companies, and I also worked for a bank as well many moons ago. I left my job now over 2 years ago to start my own tax business. And a lot of the clients that I'd worked with previously came to me and started working with me on an individual basis as well. So that was pretty good. And then later I got into social media, helping clients with their own social media as I was able to show them what I did with my business. And then, oh, we've got a question, I think. Oh no, Hillary. No, okay. Oh yeah, hang on. Oh, sorry, Hillary. Should there be a visual? Yeah, thank you. There you go. Sorry, thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, I haven't started yet anyway, so I'm just kind of giving an intro. So yeah, so I left my job, like I said, I set up my own tax business, helping pretty much the same clients that I'd had before with their tax affairs. Got into social media, helping businesses inform them about how to use social media to generate leads for their businesses, and then got into network marketing as well. So probably a lot of you on the call will probably know me as a network marketer, but you know, many moons ago I was a tax advisor and I still have tax clients and help people with their tax affairs. So I kind of got into the conversation with someone recently and they said, well, a webinar would be really useful to go through the key aspects. So I'm going to do that. Don't worry too much that this is going to be too complicated. I'm going to keep it really, really simple. If anyone who knows me and you've worked with me before, hopefully you'll realise that I like to do things easy and I like to do things as simply as possible. So, you know, if you've got a question and I haven't quite explained something, then just put up your hand or send me a message afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go through it now. So hopefully you're here because you're self-employed. So I'm going to go through just the self-employment aspects of how the UK tax system will affect you. So what I'm going to talk about is, you know, how you're going to be taxed on the profits of your business, and I'm going to talk you through what that looks like. And then I'm going to show you what kind of expenses that you need to deduct or you can deduct, and then talk to you about what records you need to keep. So, you know, records and keeping a diary note of stuff is probably one of the key things that I want to get across. So if you take nothing away today, hopefully you'll just take away to keep records. So I'm going to go through those different steps. And it is pretty easy. I mean, you know, it's easy for me to say it is pretty easy because obviously I've been doing it for a long time. But there are three main things that you need to concern yourself with, really. You need to register as soon as possible after you start. So usually within 3 months of starting or by the 5th of October after you start your business. But don't worry about those dates too much. Just try and register as soon as possible. Now, a lot of people ask me questions about how do I register, when do I register, you know, do I have to register when I'm earning profits? Theoretically, you are meant to register your business as soon as you start your business, whether you're showing a profit or not. And there is a benefit to doing that as well, in that if you're showing a loss for that business, you can carry that forward. So What that means is if, say, you know, you had losses of your business of like £500, you could just keep that to a side when there was a point when you earned enough profit so you wouldn't pay any tax at all. So basically a point where you were zero. So, you know, £500 loss, you know, perhaps you made a £500 profit, that would take you down to zero again. And I've put a link in there. The easiest way of registering your business for tax is to do it online. Now, I'm not going to go through step by step how to do that because it is just an online form. If you get to the form and you've got any questions, then do let me know. But it is things like, you know, registered address, which will be your home address. It will be whether you're self-employed, whether you're a sole trader. Usually, most people are sole traders for tax purposes, unless you've set up a limited company for any reason. But I would imagine the majority of you are sole traders. So that's how you need to fill it out. You'll also need to put in things like your national insurance number and things like that. So it's probably before you start filling in the form, just be mindful that they'll need those type of details from you to be able to register. And then what will happen once you've registered, you'll get a letter in the post probably. I mean, the revenue, I should say, are pretty slow at responding to requests. So if you've ever got a question for them and you write to them, they're probably going to take at least 2-3 months to get back to you. The quickest way of getting in touch with the revenue if you've got a question is to call them. But if you call them, make sure you call them as soon as they're open. So I think they open at like 8:30 in the morning. Just make sure you call them then, because otherwise they get really, really busy and you just get put on hold. So don't do that. So once you've registered, you'll get a notification through the post to say, great, you know, you're up and running. And then you can kind of almost forget about it really until the end of the tax year when you have to file your tax return. So in the meantime, what you need to be doing is keeping a record of any expenses and any receipts that you've incurred from that business. And I'm going to go into the types of expenses that you can deduct. Now, obviously, there's going to be all types of different businesses on the phone, so this might not be relevant to absolutely everyone. So if there's something that I haven't mentioned as an expense and you're not quite sure, then just hit me with it. And then, like I said, you just file your tax return at the end of the year, so you can do that online as well. So what they do is they usually send out a reminder after the end of the tax year. So they send it out via post, your registered address, and then what you'll do is you can register for online filing. They'll send you out a code, you know, and then you'll be up and running. So if most of you have an employment as well, what you'll do is you'll put your employment income, any tax you paid from any employment, and then you'll also put your business expenses and profit as well. Okay. And if you're new to filing your tax return, you might want to get someone to do it for you. So, for example, I've got quite a few tax return clients that I help and do their tax returns for. So it's always good, even if it's just year one, to get someone who's a professional to look over it. The reason I say that is because you might be paying too much tax. You know, you don't want to be paying too much tax. I mean, I'd prefer you to save your money and spend it on a nice holiday than paying your tax bills, to be honest. But then I've been in the industry for far too long. So these are just some examples of what you can deduct. So there are 3 tests when the revenue say whether you can deduct an expense, and they use 3 words. So whether it's wholly, necessarily, and exclusively for the purpose of the business. Now, don't worry about what those mean too much. It just means, in a nutshell, that if you've got a business expense that's been incurred entirely just for the purpose of the business, and you know the revenue wouldn't be able to argue it's got a dual purpose, and I'll speak about that in a minute, then you can deduct that business expense. So things like products that you buy for use in your business. So for example, if you've got a business where you provide samples to people for free, you can actually deduct that expense in your business. Stationery or any miscellaneous office items. So, you know, if you've got a printer at home and you're using paper, if you're buying pens, those type of things, you know, I get through quite a lot of paper and pens, and so mine all goes in. So also things like laptops as well. You know, if you've got a laptop and you've bought it exclusively for your business, I mean, I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time on my laptop and very little time on my laptop doing non-business like things, although I think my partner John would probably say that I just mess around on Facebook for a bit to do my work. I'm sure you get the same, guys. So yeah, any miscellaneous items basically, so you know, printer cartridges, things like that. This is one that people aren't aware of usually. So if you've got a room in your office and you use it exclusively for the purpose of running your business, so most people have got usually a little cubby hole or something where they sit and work. I mean, for me, I usually just sit in the kitchen, on the kitchen table or on the sofa, to be honest. I don't have a dedicated room, although I probably should. But you can deduct a percentage of your running cost of your home. So when I mean a percentage of the running cost of the home, what I mean is, say if your house had 10 rooms for argument's sake, so you know, it had, you know, bedrooms and it had bathrooms and it had reception rooms, and those were 10 rooms in total. And then if you had one room as an office, you'd be able to deduct a tenth of your utility costs. So things like your water, your electricity, your gas, you know, things that kind of keep the house together basically. And that's pretty good, you know, if you think about that, that's quite a big cost. So that's definitely worth putting in your tax return. And petrol as well. So, you know, most of us have got our own cars, and you might drive to team meetings, you might drive to meet clients, you might drive to meet, I don't know, prospects, you know, people you want to bring on board, employees if you've got any. And if you use your own car for business mileage, you can deduct 45 pence per mile for the first 10,000 miles per year. And I would imagine that most people probably don't incur more than 10,000 miles per year. Now what I do, well, what I did, I don't really drive anymore, but I'll show you. To track the number of miles, unless you've got a tracker in your car, I use the AA.com route planner. So what I would do, for example, I'll just put rough things in, but I would use my postcode. I would put from Birmingham, say, to Ulster. I would use direct postcodes of from and to places, and then I would click on get route, and then what that does, it actually calculates how many miles. So always round it down when you're calculating mileage, never up. So say for example, you know, you lived in Birmingham, say point A, and your client was in point B. If that took you 21.7 miles, you'd be able to claim 21 miles times 45p. So as an expense, and so that's £9.45, and obviously you can times that by 2 because you're driving there and back, and I'll show you how to record that in a moment. So that's another expense you can deduct. So other travel costs as well. So for example, you know, parking, if you use public transport, if you use trains, those type of things. The only type of costs that you can't deduct when you talk about travel costs are things like speeding tickets or parking tickets. You know, the revenue really don't like you being able to deduct those type of expenses because they're fines basically. Advertising or marketing, so this can cover a whole range of things. So most of us, when we sign up to a business, we have to pay for a website, or we have to pay a sign-up fee. You know, you have to pay a sign-up fee to a business, and then you get a website, or you get, you know, a monthly amount that you have to pay as your business. That's all deductible. any marketing that you spend as well. So any online advertising, any business cards, any hosting of websites, you know, any leaflets that you get printed, for example, you know, the list will go on. Anything that you can think of where you advertise or market your business, that can be included. Down to things like postage as well, of course. So if you're a product-based business, you can deduct postage, you can deduct packaging, you know, if you buy envelopes, that type of thing. So anything that you're spending that's going directly on your business, make sure you keep a record of those costs. Internet and call charges as well. Okay, so this one's a bit interesting. So internet, like we have broadbands at home, we use BT Internet, I think it is, and we just pay a lump sum every year. You know, you get it cheaper, don't you, if you pay one go? So that's what we do. Now I would argue, for my purposes, I probably use the broadband almost entirely for business, because personal, you know, I'm probably using my phone, the data on there, to be honest. I'm not using the Wi-Fi. So if you can arguably say that 100% of your broadband is for business, then you can deduct 100% of your broadband. Now, if you're using, you know, say 20% for personal, then obviously you need to take a little bit less than that, but it's entirely up to you. It's, you know, you need to take almost like a common sense approach really to it. Call charges is an interesting one. Now, if you've got a contract, so if you've got a phone where you just pay monthly, so like a pay-as-you-go if they still exist, or, you know, you've got a monthly contract where you pay a fixed amount, you get a set number of minutes and that's it, you can't deduct any of those expenses as your call charges unless you're able to get an itemised statement from your phone provider that will give you a breakdown showing how much each charge costs. And to be honest, a lot of them don't provide that unless you're using in addition to your monthly allowance, which is a bit annoying because most of us use our phones quite a bit. I mean, I probably don't speak to as many people via the phone. I tend to use Facebook quite a lot, Messenger or voicemails and things like that. But, you know, those are the rules based on call charges. And also, where you can, remember to keep all of your receipts. So that's really important. So for tax purposes, you're meant to keep them for a minimum of 6 years following the end of the tax year. So following the year that you've filed your tax return, you need to keep them for a further 6 years. What I do, and I'll show you a little spreadsheet what I do. This is all I do with mine, nothing complicated. I literally, here look, I put item, what it is, you know, a little bit of a message about what it is. So, you know, Black Pair networking, that was a networking event I used to go to, a breakfast meeting. So, you know, then you put the cost, then you put the date, and then you write a little note if you need to. And every single item that you've incurred, write a note. Now I just keep a spreadsheet because most of the time I can't be bothered to add up the whole load of numbers that I've got in the column, so I do it just because it's easier and it's in one place. But equally, if you haven't got a laptop or if you haven't got a computer, then just keep a handwritten note in a little book. You know, that's fine. It doesn't have to be anything too complicated. You know, just keep it simple. Try and be organised, yeah, and keep all your expenses. I mean, what I actually do, I'm a bit of a nightmare. I just keep all my receipts in one place in date order, and then every couple of months when I've got a spare moment, which isn't very often now, I will go through them all and I'll put them in a spreadsheet. But if you could make sure you do it on like a weekly basis, then it becomes less of an issue. It's just easier then, you know, if you've got your expenses in one place, it will be cheaper when you come to do your tax return as well. So if you're asking, you know, an accountant or a tax advisor like myself to prepare it, if you've been really conscious and you've been, you know, diligent in keeping records, it will take them less time, so it will cost you less money. So, you know, it's win-win-win all around. Also, if you ever do get audited by the revenue, they will ask to see records. And, you know, people ask me, what are the chances of getting audited? You know, probably slim to none, unless you've done something seriously wrong and you've been picked up. But, you know, it's slim to none that you'll get picked up in audit, but it's not to say it will never happen. And also mileage here, look, I just wanted to make a point. So when I'm keeping a record of mileage in the spreadsheet or in my notebook, whichever way you want to do it, I keep a note, look, of the postcode where I've come from, the postcode where I've been, and then I put the mileage each way. I also should have probably, I mean, I know what that means, mileage to repair, but next to it put why you went on that meeting. So, you know, you went to visit a client or you went to visit a teammate, that type of thing. So we've got a question, 1 second. Yeah, that's fine, Debbie. So Debbie's just asked, can I deduct the cost of buying a mobile phone? So yeah, I would, purely because I use my phone mainly for business. So if I lost my phone, I'd be absolutely stuffed. You know, I phone very few people, like friends and stuff, off my phone. I usually text them and then we arrange to meet up. I don't know what you guys do, but to be honest, I don't use my phone for making that many personal phone calls anymore. I use it just for business. So I did, Debbie. I mean, I dropped my phone not so long ago, had to buy a new handset, so that went through the business. So yeah, put it all through. Filing your tax return online. So if any of you have been in self-assessment before, you will know that we've got a really weird tax system in the UK. It runs from the 6th of April each year to the 5th of April the next year. So don't worry about why. I mean, I could tell you a story why. I've been told it so many times because I work in tax. It's one of those stories that, you know, senior tax geeks at conferences like to impress you with, but, you know, it's dull. No one wants to know that stuff. So basically, I just put a little example here to kind of set it in your mind when you need to file by, just so you've got the dates. So the easiest way of filing your tax return is online. You could, like I said at the start, once you register to file to be regarded as a business, so via the online link which I can circulate, HMRC will send you out a reminder towards after the end of the tax year to say, you know, notice to file, file by and date. So you have until the 31st of January following the end of the tax year, which you started your business or which you're in business in. So show you the dates because I think it's easier with an example. So for example, if you started your business in May 2015, that would fall within the 15-16 tax year. So you would have to file your tax return by the following January, so the 31st of January 2017. Oh, we've got a hand up. 1 second. Maxine? Oh, okay. No, we did have a hand up, not sure why. Maxine, if you got a question, Maxine, feel free to ask it, not a problem. Yeah, okay, so hopefully that example was useful. So yeah, you basically have 31st of January following the end of the tax year to file your tax return. So you have a lot of time, but I would recommend that you get your tax return in as soon as possible. I mean, I always do. I always encourage my clients to just get it out the way. You know, it's one less thing to think about. If you do a tax refund, you can obviously get it sooner. You know, the sooner you put your tax return in, the sooner you can get the refund. Also, the other reason is, you know, the revenue get really, really busy towards the end of the filing season. So around about, you know, October onwards to the end to January, they get so busy that, you know, you'll be waiting months for them to process your tax return. So I always think just get it in quick and then at least you're done then for another year. You know, you haven't got to worry about anything. That's what I always do. And then that's pretty much it. So it is really that simple. I mean, there are a few odd points around national insurance. So, for example, if you're employed and then you also set up a business, you also have to pay another class of insurance, which is called Class 2 insurance. Now, that will just be deducted via your tax return with your tax return when you file that. You also have to pay Class 4 national insurance if your profits of your business go above a certain level. So for most of you, if you've started or you're fairly new to the game, you probably won't even be within those kind of ranges anyway. But if you kind of got a question around Class 2 or Class 4 national insurance, then let me know. There's a few ways you can get information. So I've got a tax group. It's called UK Tax for Beginners. It's a free group that I just manage. If anyone's got any questions, then I just ask people to post them in there, and then at least then what happens mainly is if someone's got a question, you bet your bottom dollar that somebody else would have thought of the same question. So I just ask them to post it in there. I respond it in there, and then at least people can just see then what the questions are and what the advice is. You can also message me directly as well if you've got any questions about any of this kind of stuff. And then obviously at the end of the tax year, if you do need help with your tax return, I can help you there as well. If I'm too busy to do your tax return for whatever reason, I'm connected to people who can help you do your tax return. So there's lots and lots of help there. Obviously it's not a free service to get your tax return done, but if you need help with that, then obviously you can let me know. And then the HMRC government website. Now, if I ever have a question about tax, I usually don't check the HMRC website necessarily. So what I do, because it's easier, and the HMRC website is rubbish. Oh, we've got a question, one sec. Bless you, John. Did you hear someone sneeze? Oh yeah. John, I didn't even notice that, Debbie. So yeah, if you've got a tax question, basically you go to Google and then just type it in. UK tax, what expenses can I deduct? And then I usually put HMRC at the end. And then usually what that does, that takes you directly to the page that you need to look at. I do it that way because sometimes, oh dear, I think Eva's a bit upset. I don't know if you can hear her. It's getting close to her bedtime and she's having a bath, so she's upset. And then, yeah, if you go to the government website, hmrc.gov.uk, sometimes you can't find exactly what you're looking for. So let's see if it brings up, it might just bring up some spurious. It does actually. Sometimes it doesn't always take you to the right place in the website. So I would advise, if you've got any questions that you're not sure about, then search on Google first and do what I said. So write your question, make sure you've got UK tax in there, and then put HMRC on the end. It will usually direct you to exactly where you want to look at. It's just so much quicker than trying to navigate the HMRC website. And that was pretty much it, to be honest. I mean, that's kind of like tax in a nutshell. What you'll need. Obviously, the main piece is doing the tax return at the end of the year. That's the bit to get right. And like I said, it makes sense to try and get someone who knows what they're doing, at least for the first one, and then you can kind of copy what they do for the next one. And that was it. I mean, does anyone have any questions they want to ask me? Maxine, you had your hand up, but I'm not sure whether you've got a question. Lorna, you've got your hand up, but I can't see why. Feel free to ask a question, guys, if you want to ask one. No problem. Unless you want to speak. Okay, thank you, Debbie. No problem. Okay, has anyone got any questions? Yeah, so I've recorded this, so what I'll do is I'll download it and I'll send a copy to everyone's emails along with the PowerPoint slides as well, so at least you can refer back to it. But Sarah, if you're in my group, my UK Tax Beginners group, I'll probably include some more information towards the end of the year. I mean, for now, all you've got to do is register and then keep your receipts. You know, don't worry too much about it, to be honest. I know it's sometimes easy. Okay, Sarah, don't worry. If you missed the beginning, it's not a problem. It was only half an hour anyway, so you haven't missed a lot, don't worry. Yeah, no problem, Lorna. I can go over that again. So Lorna's asked me just to go over the office room. So it's all right. John, my partner's with Evie. She gets a bit upset this time of night because it's her bedtime for some reason. I don't know why the little girl doesn't love her bed like I do. No problem, Sophie. You have a good night. Okay, so yeah, so Lorna's asked just a question. So Lorna's asked a question about the bit about the room. So where is that again? Sorry, go back. Okay, so this is if you're using one of your rooms in your house as a office. So like I said, if you've got say 10, or we'll use the example on the page actually, unless or you'll get confused. So if you've got 5 rooms in your house, so you know that's a small house, isn't it? But say you've got, you know, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, 1 reception room and 1 other room, say, as your office, then you can claim 1/5 of the overhead costs of running your home as an expense of your business. So what that means is you can deduct kind of like things like the utilities, so you know, costs of heating the space, so you know, electricity, gas, water, you know, anything that kind of keeps the house running. I think I've also included council tax before as well as one of the claims. I think I did that for my brother. So, you know, that's pretty good if you're using one of your rooms in your house as an office. Or if, for example, if you're the kind of person who has, you know, say half the lounge set up as an office, you know, we've got a little office in our lounge, a little area for John to work. You know, we could claim, you know, say half that space as the running cost. Does that make sense, Lorna? Now? Okay, perfect. Okay, so Debbie's asked, what about the rent or the mortgage? That's no problem, Lorna, no problem at all. I think it's only just the running cost, Debbie. I think it's because if you look at a mortgage or a rent, you'd pay that anyway. But what I'll do, especially with a mortgage, because obviously that's the security on the loan, you know, you're basically owning an asset for that. But I'll have a look into the rent thing for you. I'm pretty sure it's just the running cost of the home. But what I'll do is I'll double check that. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I tend to do all of my tax return work in kind of like 1 month, and then I kind of go and do other work. That's no problem, Debbie. So I'll check on that for you guys, and I can put that in a message. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, I think, okay. Never know when to end the webinar because I don't want to cut you guys off, but I'm assuming no one's got any more questions on that. Like I said, you can find me on Facebook. If we're not already connected, then please feel free to find me on Facebook. My name's Louise Haitley. Like I said, I've also got a tax group as well, UK Tax for Beginners, and hopefully you're a member of that as well. You can message me directly. I mean, I'm usually always online in some form, so feel free to message me. Yeah, I think that's fine, Lorna. Lorna, yeah. Lorna's asked whether you can count an office under the stairs. So if there's any way you could think of an apportionment for how much that kind of like room space takes up, then I would claim a portion of it. I mean, say if it depends how big your house is, I guess. I mean, our stairs is tiny. You can hardly, we've got a toilet under our stairs. You could hardly fit anything else under there. But I guess, you know, for some people, it could be quite a big space. So it kind of depends. It's hard to give you an approximation of how much you could deduct percentage-wise without knowing how big it is. But, you know, common sense approach. Always take a common sense approach with this. If you're not sure whether you should deduct something, then either get a professional opinion or just err on the side of caution. I'm always probably the opposite to that, actually. I mean, that's my professional opinion, but I always tend to think of a really good reason why I can claim it. And then, you know, if the revenue would argue against it, I would come up with a really good argument why it would be deductible. I mean, I've worked on some massive tax cases where the revenue have tried to charge my clients in excess of, you know, 150 grand for something, and I've written very clear arguments against it to make them go away, and they have. So, you know, just take a common sense approach, but don't be too loose around the edges with things. You know, it's your money at the end of the day. So, okay, I'm going to end the webinar, I think, unless anyone's got any more questions. I mean, feel free. Okay, I'm going to end it there, guys. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you found it really, really useful. I'm going to be around, obviously, to answer any questions. So, you know, don't think that this is just the end. This is just an intro, really. So feel free to come and ask me if you've got anything you want to. And have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.